The Chiefs must get this right. What is that, you ask? We're going to talk about it. Good morning, Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate you guys hanging out with All Chiefed Up this fine Wednesday morning. Before we get this show started, Mike, let them know who's powering this live stream.
This live stream is powered by BetUS. Check out BetUS, what they got going on right now. If you use the code YouTube150, you're going to get a 150% deposit match bonus on your first deposit. Then on the next two, you're going to get 125% deposit match bonuses. Those are up to $2,000. So take advantage of all those free plays. Get over to betus.com. Use promo code YouTube150. Let them know All Chiefed Up sent you their way. Steve, the Chiefs got to get this right. And what are we talking about? We're talking about if the possibility is that Matt Nagy leaves in the offseason. Because why? Yesterday, the news broke. Ian Rappaport said the Chiefs, also on a bye week this week, will have offensive coordinator Matt Nagy and assistant GM Mike Borgonzi to interview tomorrow, which is today, with the Jets for their respective positions. Nagy's will be a virtual. He's not allowed to meet in person, so Nagy's is going to be virtual. Borgonzi is allowed to show up in person. Borgonzi is our, he's like an assistant GM to Veach or something.
Right.
So the way I'm taking it is they're both interviewing for a job that's just as good or better, more than likely. Like, they're not just leaving for, for the fun of it. But, Steve, the Jets with Nagy, what do you think about that? Do you think Nagy goes? And then we'll talk about if he leaves.
All right, yeah. Before I elaborate, you guys do us a favor. Hit the like button real quick. Help get this out to more people. Mike, here's the thing. Like, a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is ready to see Matt Nagy leave. A lot of Chiefs Kingdom blame Matt Nagy for why the Chiefs offense has been a little stagnant for the last couple of years. But you know what? People outside of Chiefs Kingdom, other organizations, other GMs, they don't see it that way. They like Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy went to Chicago, was the coach of the year in Chicago. Of course, things didn't work out great there, but Chicago's a dumpster fire. Let's get that right. But so are the Jets. So I don't know how seriously Matt Nagy will take this. He would have to get paid a significant amount of money. It'd have to sound real good to him to go pull another debacle like that happened with the Chicago Bears. And then Mike Borgonzi, that's a guy that around Chiefs Kingdom, they talk very highly of. People talk about him as being the reason why Brett Veach is Brett Veach.
Yeah. Borgonzi, look, he does. People say, what does he do here? What does he do as an assistant GM? This is what he does. He advises, supervises, and directs all the college and professional scouting operations. Okay? Excuse me. So all of our scouting operations during the offseason and our draft process, Borgonzi helps supervise, direct all of that. He puts all the people in the right spot. He helps Brett Veach go through and do all that. He also supports and advises Brett Veach with roster management and player acquisitions through the draft, through free agency, through picking guys off the street, looking at the waiver claims, any kind of trade. Borgonzi and Brett Veach are like this. So look, Brett Veach might get the end. It's sort of like with both guys here. Matt Nagy, decently important, but at the end of the day, Andy Reid gets the call. Borgonzi, Brett Veach like this, but at the end of the day, Veach is going to get the call. But the thing is Borgonzi's played a role putting together 3 Super Bowl winning rosters, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, he's did this. He's been instrumental in us being able to get these draft picks right over the last few years and winning AFC championship games and winning divisions. I mean, come on. He was big in the 2023 class. He helped a lot to pull in Rashee Rice. He was one of the guys that wanted Rashee Rice. He also wanted Wanye Morris. We won't talk about that one. A lot of people like Wanye. Look, Wanye can be good. He's just probably not a tackle. He's more of a guard. Let's just be honest. But look, Borgonzi is going to be a big loss if he goes. I honestly think, in my opinion, I think Borgonzi may be the one to go over Matt Nagy, specifically to the Jets. I don't know if the Jets will hire Matt Nagy, but they are going to interview him today. So we'll see. And Steve, if the Chiefs do lose Matt Nagy, be it to the Jets or wherever, this is what we were talking about. We've got to get this right. I feel like Matt Nagy has, a lot of Chiefs Kingdom think that Matt Nagy's been the problem with Mahomes. He's not looked the same since Bieniemy left. So we need to talk about what direction we need to go in next, because a lot of people are wanting Peterson. He just got fired from the Jaguars. They're wanting Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka's being interviewed today by the Chicago Bears. So it's probably possible that Kafka's not even going to be available. He may get picked up somewhere else too. Doug Peterson, maybe. But outside of that, it's like, where do the Chiefs go from here? Do we have to get some new blood? Do we go outside the Andy Reid coaching tree? That's just something we'll have to talk about and try to figure out once this all pans out. But, Steve, it's looking like, Nagy, this is just the first of many, in my opinion. And I believe by the end of the year, Nagy may be gone. And I don't think a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is going to really care, to be honest.
No, it's a weird thing to unpack, too. And he is interviewing with the Jets. He's also got an interview lined up with the New Orleans Saints. There are other teams that are interested. It's not just the Jets. There's a handful. And it's weird because, like I said, outside of Chiefs Kingdom, people view Matt Nagy in a different light. And even Chiefs Kingdom, it's kind of odd to me. Like, if you go back to, 2017, Matt Nagy, everybody loved him as an offensive coordinator. Alex Smith had his best year as a Chief. He was throwing the ball down the field. He led the league in deep passing, which is absolutely insane. That team could put points on the board at the drop of a hat. And then now he come back, and for the last 2 years now that Eric Bieniemy has been gone. And is it really Matt Nagy, or is it just kind of the circumstances the Chiefs have been in? I mean, last year they had no receivers, none, zero. This year, they have a great receiving core that they kind of put together after injuries halfway through the season. So, and you said it the best early on, Andy Reid gets to call this offense. Matt Nagy's going to play his role as offensive coordinator. He's got his jobs to do, but ultimately it's Andy. And if you think Matt Nagy's been the reason why this offense has been so bad for the last 2 years, you got to point a big finger to Andy as well for allowing it to happen. So I just don't think that Matt Nagy's a big problem like people think he is. Not saying he's the greatest either. So you can have that opinion for sure. But yeah, Mike, we might have to look elsewhere. I don't think that Andy Reid really goes outside of his coaching tree very often. And there's also a possibility that there's someone on this coaching staff already that might earn the opportunity of offensive coordinator. They could just promote within. You never really know, but there are some options out there. And the thing about it is, what's actually an option? Who can you entice to leave what they're doing now? I don't know. I mean, honestly, Doug Peterson's going to be like the big one that people are going to bring up because of the ties with Andy Reid. The fact he was our offensive coordinator before he went on to win a Super Bowl with the Eagles and then, of course, go to Jacksonville. But I don't know, man. I am a Liam Cohen fan. I don't know if you could, pull him away.
He's already
from Tampa Bay. He's locked up in a contract. So
he's already interviewing for a head coaching job today.
Of course.
I don't remember with who, but he's already doing it. Liam Cohen, to me, is going to be a big, big stretch.
It is a stretch.
He has
but
no
how
ties
good would it
to
be?
The Chiefs.
How good would it be, though?
I mean, it would be okay. You love Liam Cohen. I'm still a little iffy with him. I don't understand. I mean, he's fine.
I don't know how you can be iffy with a guy that.
Well, because Liam Cohen's not going to come in and just run the offense. It's not just going to be Liam Cohen comes in and bring his offense, and Andy's going to kneel down to it. So,
Correct.
What do you think you're getting out of Liam Cohen?
But I think you do get some of the nuances of that, right? Like we talk about with Nagy, he don't exactly make every last call. Andy has a huge thumbprint on his offense, and Andy said himself that he calls most of the plays. But I think that you do get a little bit of that offensive coordinator sprinkled in. You can see a little bit of difference of Eric Bieniemy and Matt Nagy. But ultimately, if you look at the Chiefs offense over the Mahomes era, it's not been that much different. It's just all of a sudden we've stalled out. But there were times even under Bieniemy where we saw that version of the Chiefs. It was in smaller doses, but we definitely saw that version rear its ugly head a few times, sometimes at very inopportune times, like the AFC Championship game that single-handedly made Bengals fans the most annoying people on the planet. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I see somebody say get Gruden into chat, Brian Parrott. It's funny because, I mean, we all saw him at camp this past offseason. We know he's buddies with Andy Reid. I think he's working for Barstool or somebody now, isn't he?
He is. He got hired for Barstool, but I mean, he would possibly leave for an NFL job. Would they do that? I don't know. Steve, I just brought up some stuff on Nagy, though. In 2017, he was our offensive coordinator, obviously. That was Alex Smith. That was Mahomes' rookie season.
Right.
The Chiefs ranked 5th in the NFL in yards, 6th in the NFL in points, and a 10th in points differential, which means if you outscore your opponents, you'll be number 1. So we were about the 10th best team at outscoring our opponents. Pretty good season there. Alex Smith had a pretty good year that year, if I remember correctly. In 2023, of course, he got hired for a head coaching job. He was in Chicago for 4 years, 28 to 21. When he come back to KC in 2023, we become the number 6th overall in point differential. And then this year we were 11th. So as bad as everyone thinks it looks at times, in 2023 we were 6th overall in the entire NFL in point differential. And this year we were 11th. In 2017 we were 10th. So, I mean, we're right. We've been no worse than 11th under Nagy as offensive coordinator. We were 12th in yards when he was here in 2017. We were 7th in 2023, and this year we were 15th. So we've been in the top half of the league here. We're 15th. We're in the top half in yards differential. In point differential, we're in the top 11, top 10. In points per game, we've been number 15 last year and this year. In 2017, we were number 6. So, I mean, if you compare that to what Bieniemy did, Bieniemy was here from 2018 to 2022. If you look at his point differential, people have a point. We were number 2 in the league in 2018. We were number 4 in 2019. We were number 6 in 2020. In 2021, we were 5th. In 2022, we were 4th. So we were a top 6 team at outscoring opponents under him, whereas Nagy, it was closer to 11th. In yards per game, yards differential, we were 11th, 10th, 3rd, 11th, 2nd. So we had 2 out of 5 years where we were top 5, and then the other ones we were 10th, 11th, and 10th. And like I said, Nagy scored that as 12th, 7th, and 15th. So if you look at all the metrics, Steve, Eric Bieniemy, offense, whatever he did within the offense, whatever him and Andy Reid's chemistry was within the offense, whatever he had influence over the players, over Mahomes, whatever it was, it is more prominent on the field and in the play calling and on the stat sheet and ultimately the scoreboard. Bieniemy was more effective as an offensive coordinator. There's no doubting that. Like, the numbers back it up.
Yeah, but there's a lot of factors to that. Considering you're going by 3 years of Matt Nagy, 1 year without Patrick Mahomes.
3 versus 5.
1 without Patrick Mahomes, and 1 with the worst receiving
The funny thing
core
was,
in
though,
football.
the one without Patrick Mahomes was his highest rank throughout the entire thing.
Right. That's why I don't know if
So
there's
that kind of
nulls
that argument.
It doesn't really. I don't think it does. I think that's more impressive that he was able to do that with that team with Alex Smith. And also last year, Mike, he had the worst receiving core in football. This year they had 17 people in the IR. So I mean,
do you think
there's a lot of things that go into it?
Do you think if you look back at that though, and Nagy's influence, let's just say his influence in the offense is the exact same in all 3 years. The one with Alex Smith in 2017, and then the past 2 years with Mahomes. The offense is the same, the influence is the same, the game planning is the same, everything's the same. There's no different dynamics. Do you think in 2017 it was more effective because Nagy tends to call plays or have a style or want to develop a game plan that favors more quarterbacks such as Alex Smith that maybe likes to dink and dunk a little more, because we've seen Mahomes he's almost turned into a dink and dunk machine for the past 2 years in certain regards. And then they played it off as, well, they're playing the cover 2 shell and we've got to learn to play within the offense. But there's a difference between playing with the offense. There's a lot of cover 2 shell out there that just gets blown up by certain quarterbacks. And it took Mahomes a long time to figure that out.
Right.
And I just wonder if it was something to do with the Nagy influence and the way they were running the offense. It almost turned him into a check down merchant for a little while.
Well, that started back under Eric Bieniemy. And I think that was just a natural evolution of Mahomes trying to adjust to a defense that was kicking his ass. And I don't think that's necessarily – you might be onto something there as far as quarterback style, but I don't know if it really has that much of an influence. I just think that's more of what Patrick Mahomes had to do to win. And you notice that Mahomes won a Super Bowl that way. After everyone figured out that Patrick Mahomes struggled with that particular defense, he settled in and he started taking what the defense gave him, and he won an entire Super Bowl playing that style.
Right. Well, you said it yourself. The numbers were better under Alex Smith than they were under the Mahomes the 2 years. So there has to be a reason there. Alex Smith is not a better quarterback. He's not as athletic. He doesn't have a better arm. He's just not. He's nowhere in the ballpark of a Patrick Mahomes. So why does the offense translate better during that season than it has under the 2 years of Mahomes? That's kind of the question of why. You could say it was the talent surrounded him. I mean, come on. What did Alex Smith have in 2017 at wide receiver? He had Jeremy Maclin his later years.
Tyreek Hill. That's the big factor there. That's the big factor there.
Wasn't that Tyreek Hill? What was 2017? Was that Tyreek Hill's rookie year?
Tyreek Hill was really good in 2017. Alex Smith was the best deep ball passer in the league, if I'm not mistaken, that year. And it was because
Which
of
is
Tyreek
wild.
Hill.
That's wild.
Because of Tyreek Hill. I mean, Alex Smith was one of those guys. He didn't care to throw the deep ball, but he needed to see some space.
Well, he stunk at throwing the deep ball, and then, or at least it was the perceived. And then by the end of the year, he was somehow the highest accurately throwing deep ball guy in the league. But people still, I mean, he just didn't do it a lot either. So he probably hit what?
You also have to consider back
maybe.
then our defense wasn't as good as it has been under Spags. So you were looking at a team that had to put more points on the board as well to win games. A little bit different dynamics. It's very, very hard to talk about this and make it make sense because there's just so many different factors. But ultimately, Eric Bieniemy, that's the one on everybody's brain. I think most people in Chiefs Kingdom, they have some kind of an attachment to Eric Bieniemy, and they would take him back in a heartbeat. Mike, do you think that's a good idea? Like, I think, in my opinion, I'll go ahead and throw it out there, and then I'll let you talk. But in my opinion, I think Eric Bieniemy kind of sealed his fate in Kansas City with his attitude, with that halftime in the AFC Championship game that literally cost us that game and potentially another Super Bowl. Just, I don't know if he just rubbed players the wrong way or what. I know the players always are going to say they loved him, right? But at the same time, we saw it with our own eyes. Patrick Mahomes and him having a yelling match. Tyreek Hill looked like he couldn't stand the guy. Like, there was a lot going on there. And then when he leaves Andy Reid's system, when he leaves that and goes out on his own to prove himself because he can't get that head coaching job, he can't do squat as offensive coordinator in Washington. He goes to college. To
well,
UCLA,
I mean, come on. Who is his quarterbacks in Washington?
Fired.
Sam Howell.
Fired out of the college game. He's not been successful at all. And yeah, I understand. Like I said, it's different circumstances. But at the same time, man, like, to me, there is a reason that Eric Bieniemy was not hired as a head coach in the NFL back when he was the hot topic. And it wasn't because of the color of his skin. It was not. You can't tell me that when you have all these other coaches that are making that happen. I just don't think that was it. I think it was something else. It was the way he was interviewing. It was the reputation. I mean, you had the guys in Washington that literally said they would not play for that team if they promoted him to head coach. They didn't even want him as offensive coordinator. He just rubs guys the wrong way for some reason. And I don't think it translated any better to college.
Well, we've discussed it before. We think he was more of a hard ass. And Nagy might be more of a player's coach, more of a friend kind of guy. And a lot of people think that's the reason Mahomes and some of the offense just won't get it together. They just don't feel that fire.
But isn't that the same reason everyone says Andy Reid's such a good coach?
Yeah, I mean, well, don't you have to have? You got to have your yin and your yang here. You can't have everybody be your best friend. That's why mom sends the kid to the dad to get the little butt whooping because you know mom's got to play. It's good cop, bad cop. Then when it gets older, it's go ask mom, right? So you can't both be the same. So maybe there is a little bit of something to that. But back to your point, you know, with Tyreek Hill and Bieniemy fighting on the sideline, well, look, Tyreek Hill, he's proved over and over again he's going to be a little problem.
Yeah, but Patrick Mahomes and him had a yelling match on national television. That's a little
But
odd,
wasn't
don't you think?
that's two competitors in the heat of the battle, though, right? Like, I don't know if it was anything that, like, I guess you'll never know.
I don't
I
know,
don't think
man.
Mahomes
I don't
or
know if you
Bieniemy
could chalk-
ever is
I don't
gonna
know if you
come
could
out.
chalk it up to that. I really don't.
Well, we'll see. We got a comment on X. Someone said this is a non-serious interview because it's virtual. He's just checking boxes. Well, number one,
got a
it has to
job
be
to do.
virtual. He's
Yeah.
got a job to do in Kansas City. He has to interview virtually. There's nothing wrong with interviewing. I mean, they may take this that people jobs interview virtually all over the country now, especially since 2020. Like, I think the interview, in my opinion, is not that important. I think what it is they look at what they want to do, how they want to accomplish it. They will talk to Nagy online for 20, 30, 40, maybe an hour. Who knows? I don't know how long the interview goes. But they're asking him basic questions. But they want to see what his plan is for the future, how he will implement it. Probably some of the questions they got from what he did in Chicago. What's he doing in Kansas City? By the end of the day, the Jets are going to know more than Chiefs fans of what Nagy does within the offense here. Believe me, they're going to understand what Nagy's role is. Like, we get confused sometimes. We're like, what the hell does Nagy do? We'll ask the Jets today after the end of the interview. They'll know. But I don't think it's a non-serious interview. I think they're just going to come in and, you know, see if he's going to fit what they want. I think, Steve, a lot of people's got their mind made up on kind of who they want to target, right? Like, if you were going to start a franchise, or say Andy retired tomorrow and you were Brett Veach, you don't think the Chiefs got a quick short list? You know, they probably got a short list a mile long. That's how prepared they are for this kind of stuff.
True. That's what I said. That they could absolutely have somebody in house that they're ready to promote to that position. It could be somebody that's earned that. I'm not for sure. And you never really know. And it's not just offensive coaches either. Like, sometimes you see like random defensive coaches get that, you know, that job, and it'll switch, and it kind of throws you off. So,
Well,
I don't know.
Nagy and Bergonzi is not the only ones that's probably going to interview here. You may get Dave Tobe. I almost called him Dove Tabe. Dave Tobe may be interviewing for somebody this year. It's
And
possible.
Steve Spagnuolo has shown interest.
Yeah,
in being a head coach
Spag said he
again.
wants to be another head coach again. Like, he'd like to do that. And he's getting up there in age. So if the opportunity comes, he may take it because he don't, you know, how many more like solid, like feisty years is he going to be able to, you know, try to turn around a franchise? Because he's not going to
Right.
like a proven playoff winner, more than likely. Like, you don't fire proven playoff winners. Now, we'll say this.
I don't know.
Spags would be a nice fit. If the Steelers were to get bounced and they was to move on from Tomlin, Spags would be a nice fit up in Pittsburgh. His style and his attitude,
Absolutely.
to me, that would be his just ideal dream. And I wouldn't fault him one bit for taking that. Spags 1,000% deserves to be able to coach again if he wants to, head coach.
Right. But that's not going to happen, by the way. Tomlin's not going anywhere.
Boy, fans are calling for Tomlin to be booted, especially if he loses this one in the playoffs. It's really picking up heat.
I mean, it could happen, but I mean, isn't it kind of hard for a franchise to fire a coach that's never had a losing season?
Well, okay. Well, do you want to just never have a losing season and get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, or do you want to try to like just get more dynamic?
Didn't Tomlin win 2 Super Bowls with them?
Well, he hasn't won nothing lately, and it's a win now lately.
I understand, but there's
game.
just different ways to look at it. I don't know. I understand what you're saying too, though. But Spags has said straight out of his mouth he would love to be a head coach again in the NFL. We all remember him in St. Louis, right? Like, it didn't work out so well for him. But it's just one of them things, just like with Matt Nagy in Chicago. I think a lot of it was they were a victim of circumstance and just wasn't in the greatest place. Just like players, sometimes with coaches, it's the situation and where you end up and how well that fits together. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Of course, you know, when all these coaching jobs are coming up, a lot of the Chiefs coaches are going to be a hot topic. I mean, anytime you're the top team, you're the top dog, and you have been for years now, I mean, your coaches are going to be getting interviewed.
Yeah.
So,
Steve, people in the chat, they don't think Spags is a head coach.
do what?
I'm seeing it a few times. Mahomes Madness says Spags has proved he's not a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, he had one little stint there, right?
Kyle says he don't see Spags taking the head coaching gig again. Well, he said it out of his mouth. Wasn't it last year? He said, I'd like to be a head coach again.
Yeah, they asked him that in
It was just
either
a few months
post-game
ago.
or presser or something, and he was like, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. That doesn't necessarily mean he couldn't have changed his mind since then.
Right.
I mean, who
And he
knows?
proved he's not a head coach. I don't know. Like, where did he coach? The Rams? I mean, come
Right,
on.
it
That was
wasn't
all the way
long.
back in the... That might have been when they were back with St. Louis, for Christ's
Right.
sakes. That was so long ago. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise. There's a
You
whole
never really know.
generation of children
That's going
not
to be
even
one to
born
keep an
yet.
eye on, though, because Spags has just absolutely killed it the last 6 years. You know, like he's been so good, and I see where, Ray talk about that.
That don't matter.
It don't. It really don't. I mean, of course he renewed his contract. If something else don't come up, he's where he wants to be at, right?
Right. I don't think that matters. He's going to move if he wants to move. Anybody's going to take a promotion. So, I
Right.
mean, if he wants to do it, he'll take it. It's not like the Chiefs are going to be like, no, you're under contract. I don't think there's nothing to do about it.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think one of the main things to talk about is how much difference does it make? Honestly, we've talked about this before, where it's like, does the offensive coordinator in Andy Reid's system make that much of a difference? Coaching with Andy Reid, you know that Andy Reid is one of the greatest, most prolific offensive coaches of all time. He is that guy. And he's going to have his fingerprints all over his offense. He's going to make the calls in his offense, and everybody knows it. So how much of a difference does it actually make if Matt Nagy were to leave? And how much difference would it make if he brought in Eric Bieniemy back or Doug Peterson back or went with new blood? But we'll talk about it right after this ad.
Today's show is sponsored by Manta Sleep Mask. You got to check this out. We weren't big believers in sleep masks. I thought they were going to be too big, too hot, too bulky. But Manta Sleep Mask changed that perception for me. These sleep masks are so comfortable. You can change the cup around your eye and find a custom fit. That way the mask finds your comfortability. With these pillows around your eyes, you feel zero pressure. And with a 100% blackout technology, you can go to sleep anytime, day or night, no matter how erratic your sleep schedule is. You can go with the sound mask, the pro mask, the silk mask, or just the sleep mask. You should go check out their website by clicking the link we have provided for you in the description below and read up on which option sounds best for you. But regardless of which mask you choose, use our code ACU10 at checkout and receive a 10% discount that we have secured through Manta Sleep for you, Chiefs Kingdom. Again, go to the description, find the link, find the mask you want to try out, use code ACU10 and get yourself some of the best sleep you've ever had in preparation of this long football season.
Go to the description, click that link, and check out Manta Sleep. We appreciate them for supporting all Chiefed Up. So do your boys a favor and hit that like button if you're just rolling in. We are talking about the Chiefs must get the offensive coordinator position right if Matt Nagy were to take one of these positions he's interviewing for. He's interviewing with the Jets. He is also rumored to be interviewing with the Saints, and there will be many more teams that want to take a look at him, I'm sure. So that's what we're talking about this morning. So if you're just rolling in, we appreciate you. Be sure to get in the chat, hit that like button, all that good stuff. Mike, how much of a difference does the offensive coordinator make in Andy Reid's offense?
They help with game plans. Like we understand this. They help with game plans. They coordinate the offense. Obviously, it's in the name. You know, they're going to help scout players. Who's the best guy out for the job at a specific position? What personnel packages work best versus specific team? Who needs to be in said personnel package? There's plenty of things they're going to do. So it's not obsolete. If it was obsolete, Andy'd be like, we don't need one else to do it. So he's got to have his help. Now, for me, we need to talk about how the Chiefs can get this right. So people want to know, is it Mike Kafka? Do you bring back Eric Bieniemy? Is it Doug Peterson? Look, Doug Peterson, Kafka, from the Andy Reid coaching line. John Gruden's been brought up. I think Gruden would be a very, very, that would be a pick that would just come out of left field for me, in my opinion. Kafka, Peterson, you could see that. Doug Peterson, they're part of the coaching tree, Steve. But I don't think the Chiefs would more than likely look to some new blood. You mentioned Liam Cohen. I don't see it. Honestly, I would think if the Chiefs are going to promote, they'll promote in-house. I think at the end of the day, they promote in-house. And I think they'll go, they could go with Joe Blameyer, who is the passing game coordinator. This is his second year being the team's passing game coordinator. Andy Reid loves to pass the ball. He's also been a wide receiver coach in 2021, 2022. He's had 3 seasons as a assistant QB coach and a pass game analysis. He's had 2 seasons as a quality control coach of the offense. So he knows the offensive game. Joe Blameyer would be one that I could see them just putting in right there and it almost fits seamlessly. You've also got the QB coach, David Girardi. He's in his 7th season with the Chiefs. He is the quarterback's coach in 2024. It's just one of those things. He's been here with Mahomes since 2018. So Mahomes is very, very much like this with David Girardi as a QB coach. He spent 2 seasons as a pass game analyst and an assistant QB coach, 3 seasons as an offensive line control coach. So him and Blameyer, however you pronounce it, I think it's Blameyer, they are probably next in line. I would see the Chiefs go ahead and pull in from their ranks than to go out if they can't get a Kafka, or I don't even know if Doug Peterson would be interested, or Gruden, those kinds of players. I feel like at the end of the day, they promote in-house and they probably take somebody new. I could see that before I could even see them going back to Bieniemy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where I'm at with it. I think it would probably be someone in-house. Reason being, like when you talk about Doug Peterson, to me, I feel like he's somebody that would have a good chance of getting one of these other head coaching jobs. I mean, yeah, it didn't exactly work out for him in Jacksonville, and it's weird that he got fired so quickly in Philadelphia, but they have a knack for firing coaches that are successful with them. So, I mean, he is a Super Bowl winning coach. He comes from the Andy Reid coaching tree. A lot of people respect Doug Peterson, so I could see him probably snagging another head coaching job before he'd go back to being an offensive coordinator. Is it impossible? No. I mean, I could see it happening as well. But I just don't think the Eric Bieniemy thing is going to happen. And I think that's the one that people would want to talk about the most, and that's the name that's going to get brought up the most is, oh, we'll bring Eric Bieniemy back. And I think that's a fair argument to make, but I also think it could just be that he was around during a really good time of the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes was having his best years early on with Bieniemy there. Bieniemy was a beneficiary to Patrick Mahomes going absolutely crazy when he first started, before defenses really knew what to make of him. So, I mean, there's a lot to that. So I think it could just be kind of like I don't know what to say about it exactly. I don't think that people really understand why they want Eric Bieniemy back. It just feels good because back then things were so much better. But were they? I mean, we're still talking about a team that's won the last 2 Super Bowls.
Well, why don't you go on record? If Nagy leaves, and he's not going to leave immediately. It's not like he's going to get hired today and he's just gone. But let's just say at the end of the season, Nagy gets a job. We just focus on Nagy. Everybody else stays the same. Who do the Chiefs need to hire as offensive coordinator, in your opinion? Who do they hire? Give me Steve's educated guess at 11:35 a.m. on January the 8th.
I got nothing for you. I got my wish list, but obviously, like you said, not going to happen. I don't know an exact name, but I do think it would probably be somebody in-house. One of the guys you brought up seemed like one of the candidates that could work. A lot of people saying Kafka. I understand that. I don't see him. Honestly, I think he might end up with a head coaching job.
Yeah, Kafka's being interviewed all over the league.
Yeah.
So it's very possible he's going to get hired somewhere. If I had to give you mine right now, I'd say it's a Joe Blameyer. That's who I would take. I think that would be the number one guy, unless Andy has somebody on the back burner we don't know about. I think they promote in-house and they go there.
Yeah, that's something to
That's
think
who I think
about,
they would
man.
do.
It's could be any of the guys from across the league that have been with Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid, his coaching tree runs deep in the NFL. I mean, there are guys everywhere that have connections to Andy Reid.
Just names throughout. You have like Leslie Frazier,
Right.
defensive coordinator. He's been a head coach. You've got Brad Childress. That's another guy that's an offensive coordinator. Let's hope he never comes here as an offensive coordinator. You have good night. You've even got Sean McDermott in Buffalo is an Andy Reid disciple. Like, Andy Reid's got his hand in a little bit of everything. So I just think that if it's time and you can't get your hands on Kafka or somebody like that, they'll just promote in-house. I really don't think Andy's going to go pull out somebody that's not part of his tree. And I think Andy does look to give younger guys a shot. At some point, Nagy got a shot. At some point, Kafka got a shot. Kafka was a QB coach.
Yeah.
So at some point, it just got to move. It's a natural progression of life. And I think they would just stay in-house there.
Absolutely, man. So here's the thing. There's other stuff going on, believe it or not. The Chiefs are on bye week. They just got to win 3 games, and they are the first team to three-peat as Super Bowl champions. Mike, how are we feeling about that? I know it's been a slow week. It's going to be a slow week. This is a Chiefs rest week again. But we have playoff football coming up this weekend. So how are you feeling about it? All this stuff is stuff to talk about in the offseason, ultimately. It's just like a little talking point we had today just because the interview's coming up. But, I mean, ultimately, we're in the heat of it. It's a go time for the Kansas City Chiefs. So how are you feeling about the Chiefs this week, and how are you feeling about these games coming up this weekend?
I think the games this weekend, we'll just focus on the AFC. I don't really care what happens in the NFC. Like, nobody over there scared me at all. I just really don't care. But I feel like Denver's going to give Buffalo a pretty good game. I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think Buffalo's going to be too much. Josh Allen would have to crap the bed. And I'm not saying he won't. And I'm not saying it's not possible. But as it goes, I think Denver will give them a decent, close game because they're riding the high. But I think that they think getting into the playoffs and beating the Chiefs could almost work as their Super Bowl in a way. The way they were acting, the way they were wanting to get in. And I feel like they could have a letdown week. And so I'll think Buffalo pulls that one out. I don't think Pittsburgh is playing good football right now, so I think Baltimore's going to handle them. So, I mean, it's going to be Buffalo versus Baltimore, and the winner's going to play the Chiefs and the winner of the Charger-Houston game. To be honest, I think the Chargers are a better football team set up for playoff football. Now, the only reason is that you can see Houston winning it is because Houston is dynamic at certain times if C.J. Stroud could turn it on.
Yeah,
and their defense
clicks,
is good too. So that's going to be a grinded out kind of game. I don't necessarily mean the score is going to be close or it's going to be a low scoring game. But I think that's just a coin flip kind of game right there. And you can see their records. But I think that Harbaugh has built them to play tough on defense, run the ball, play a little clock control, and then use Herbert to beat you when you commit too many guys in the box. And so I believe the Chargers might get that win. I think the 5 beats the 4, and I believe it's going to be the Chiefs versus the Chargers. So we're going to have another divisional game, Steve, coming up basically. And you don't really want to see those kind of games in the playoffs, in my opinion. I think the Chargers are the worst matchup for us, in my opinion. Now, look, the Texans may be a little more dangerous, from what I would think is like you probably would rather see the Chargers considering they just got into the playoffs barely or whatever by a game or two. But I just feel like the Chargers are a good matchup against the Chiefs. They know us well. We should be able to rout them. It shouldn't be a problem. But they do always tend to play us close. They know us pretty well. The only saving grace there is that it is Harbaugh and a new staff, so they're not as familiar with the Chiefs as some, maybe even the players are. That's been there a while.
Well, every year in the playoffs, man, some crazy things happen. It just does. And Josh Allen is known to blow up in the playoffs. Josh Allen is known to turn the ball over heavily. He's known to make bonehead decisions. And I think when you're facing the number 2 defense in the entire league, that it's a good time for that to happen. It very well could. So I think that Denver does have a chance of pulling off the upset there. However, if Buffalo is on their game and Denver accidentally lets the floodgates open, it's bye-bye for Denver. I mean, they're really going to have to lock all that down because, I mean, if you let the Bills get a little bit hot and you let them get a little bit comfortable, they're going to put up a lot of points. And I don't think that Bo Nix and crew can match it. I just don't. So, I mean, I think there's a possibility there, but I think I'm with you. You have to go ahead and give that one to Buffalo. No, one I would maybe argue with you is Pittsburgh and the Ravens. Here's the reason. I understand where you're coming from. Pittsburgh's been on a pretty bad stretch.
Yeah, they stink.
They do. They're not great.
They're the epitome of limping into the playoffs.
Absolutely. But at the same time, it's one of those divisional games.
But do you trust Russell Wilson?
I don't trust Lamar Jackson.
Do you trust
in the playoffs.
George Pickens?
I don't, Mike, but I'm just saying it's one of those divisional games. The same way that you can come at me and tell me that the Chargers would be a tough matchup for the Chiefs because they know them well and this and that. It's the same thing with the Ravens
I get
and
it.
Steelers.
It'll be a dogfight. I don't think somebody's going to blow somebody out, but if there is a blowout, it's going to be the Ravens over the Steelers.
And
I don't think you ever see it the other way.
And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have the edge at coach. I think that Tomlin's a better coach.
You think Tomlin's going to fight for his job?
It very well could, man.
He's got to get that playoff win.
So that one's a little up in the air to me. It would not surprise me to see the Chiefs playing Pittsburgh. It really wouldn't.
I would rather play Pittsburgh than the Chargers.
Right. Now, we go to the other game, the Chargers, the Texans. I'm with you. I think the Chargers would handle the Texans. And I also think that the Chargers would be a tougher matchup for the Chiefs because if you really look at it, the Chiefs kind of handled Houston. It wasn't like a super close game. The score was closer than the game was. So, I'm not
Was
super
that the first game? Was that the first game Hollywood came back? Or Hollywood come back the next week?
I don't remember.
I don't either. But I want to say, like, we wasn't completely healthy there either.
We haven't been completely healthy all season. So, I mean, it's fair to say. And then, of course, they had their fair share of injuries, too. I mean, we saw what happened to Tank Dell in the game against the Chiefs. So, I mean, they got a lot of stuff going on there. C.J. Stroud's not had as great of a year. Everyone knew that he was going to slump a little bit in the sophomore year. It's just what happens. Teams get you on tape. Teams figure it out a little bit. It happened to Patrick Mahomes as well. So, I mean, we'll see how that goes. But either way, your original statement is kind of where I'm at. I'm not afraid of any of these teams. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. I think when it really boils down to it, they know how to win. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. They know how to win. I'm not worried about who it is. I mean, they've proven time and time again they can beat Buffalo in the playoffs. They've proven time and time again they can beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in the playoffs. So those are the two teams that you would potentially be scared of, I suppose. But it's just not a thing. It's really not. And even if they had to play the Chargers, who I'm with you, I think would be a tough matchup. It's a divisional matchup. They have a great pass rush. Their defense has been excellent. They are the number one defense in the league. So, I mean, AFC West has done nothing but build defense, try and stop Patrick Mahomes. And that's what's led us to this. And I necessarily wouldn't be that worried about a Chargers matchup either. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like the Chiefs, they kind of have Justin Herbert's number when it really boils down to it.
Do you think Watson gets back in time to pick off Herbert again?
Well, that's another one other thing I would bring up is Herbert's only had 3 interceptions all freaking year.
Yeah. Well, do you know if you play the Chargers, you know at least you're getting a game out of Mike Dana. I mean,
that's true.
You're guaranteed that one. So, I mean, if you got a guaranteed Mike Dana sighting, that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have a lot more to talk about this coming week about that matchup. It'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend and how all that shakes out. But we appreciate you guys being here with us this morning. Do us a favor, hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time. Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
There goes a sight from my soul.